Caitlyn gets an opportunity to be recognized as a designer when Lady Isabelle notices her dress. Things get weird when Caitlyn is attracted to her soon-to-be fiancé, Prince Geoffrey. Caitlyn receives calls as the assistant of a fashion magazine editor-in-chief, Abigail Miller. She asks Karen to get to the office even if it's Christmas Eve. Abigail is strict about working on the fashion show. They joke about their boss being a Grinch. It's not really a joke. By now, Caitlyn is supposed to be in her mother's house with her roommate and colleague, Doris. She has been texting pictures of the turkey for a while. Doris has tailored and polished Leighton's dresses, but she thinks Caitlyn's designs are better. Doris knows Caitlyn should be the designer for the fashion show. Caitlyn reminds her that Leighton is Abigail's daughter. Abigail doesn't care about Caitlyn's designs or name, even after a year of working as her assistant. Doris asks Caitlyn to believe in her talent. She can picture them getting kissed by handsome men at an elegant ball on New Year's Eve. Caitlyn reminds her of their plans to watch movies with ice cream. Doris thinks New Year's Eve is a magical time where anything is possible. Caitlyn gets called to Abigail's office with Leighton's dresses. Doris asks Caitlyn to remind Abigail that they need some time off. Leighton thanks Caitlyn for bringing her dresses, but Abigail keeps giving her work. She asks Caitlyn to add Lady Isabelle and Prince Geoffrey to their guest list. They're currently the hottest couple in the world. They are throwing a New Year's Eve ball for the royal family, where the prince is expected to propose. Abigail wants to wow them at the fashion show. Caitlyn promises to handle the work requests some time off for Christmas Eve. Abigail wants her to keep working, but lets Caitlyn and the staff leave when Leighton insists. Abigail isn't satisfied with the designs, because she wants Isabelle to pick one of Leighton's dresses for the ball. Leighton wants to relax on Christmas Eve, but Abigail refuses to let her miss her big break. Caitlyn reminds Doris not to crack fashion jokes at the family dinner. Her parents are already upset she quit her steady teaching job to work in fashion. Doris knows Caitlyn's designs are gorgeous and thinks Isabelle should wear the blue one at the ball. Caitlyn doesn't think that will happen but hopes she finds her prince with that dress. Prince Geoffrey's butler, Barnaby, shows him Lord and Lady Atwood's residence. They met Geoffrey at an opera a few months ago. Geoffrey remembers that the opera and the couple were very dull. They are loaning the venue to Geoffrey for the New Year's Eve ball, while they vacation in Italy. Geoffrey knows everyone is expecting him to propose on New Year's Eve. He hates all the strict confines of his family's traditions. Barnaby interrupts his ramblings when Lady Isabelle arrives. Isabelle starts planning the ball, but Geoffrey reminds her it's Christmas Eve. Isabelle thinks the planning is more important so they can impress Geoffrey's father, the king. Abigail hurriedly asks Caitlyn to give her the guest list. She insists Doris needs to do another fitting for the models to ensure everything is perfect. She asks Caitlyn to remove the Christmas tree in the office just one day after Christmas. When Isabelle arrives, Abigail tries to charm her. Abigail is sure Isabelle will love one of her dresses for the New Year's Eve gala. Isabelle heads for her meeting with Abigail, but asks Caitlyn to get a red notebook that a messenger is bringing for her. Barnaby thinks a messenger should have delivered the notebook Geoffrey insisted on bringing. Geoffrey needed a reason to step outside so he could experience New York City. He's glad that he looks like a commoner. He is tired of being treated like a prince all his life. He wants to be a regular Jeff in a new city where no one knows him. Caitlyn assumes Geoffrey is the messenger when he walks in with the notebook. She insists on taking it to Isabelle herself. She also wonders if there's a dating app where Isabelle found a prince. Geoffrey tries to explain his identity, but Caitlyn doesn't let him talk. She assumes he is a model who wants to give his headshot to Abigail since she's the editor of Appliqué magazine. Caitlyn admits he's handsome, but doesn't want more models ambushing Abigail. She begs him to give her the notebook so she's not fired. Geoffrey agrees to give it to her if she shares her name. He also asks her not to be embarrassed when she meets him next time. He introduces himself as Jeff, so Caitlyn promises to give him a good review on Yelp. Good luck finding him there. Caitlyn calls Doris at home when she hasn't yet left for the fashion show. Abigail is not letting Caitlyn enter the show in her waitress-type dress. Caitlyn begs Doris to get a dress from home. Doris arrives late with the blue dress Caitlyn made. Caitlyn doesn't want to wear her design, but has no choice. Isabelle introduces Geoffrey to Abigail since she's helping plan the gala. Geoffrey starts explaining all the programs the royal family helps with. Isabelle stops him and doesn't think Abigail is interested. Abigail asks Isabelle to focus on Leighton's designs that night. Geoffrey tries to escape the fashion talk but bumps into a server. He spills a shrimp cocktail on Geoffrey's jacket. Abigail scolds the server for being clumsy, but Geoffrey takes the blame. He excuses himself to fix his coat. Barnaby can't get the stain out, so he decides to ask the hotel staff for help. Caitlyn changes into the beautiful dress and bumps into Geoffrey again. She assumes he's a catering waiter to earn extra money till his acting career begins. She suggests his agent should reach out to contacts on his behalf. Caitlyn offers help since she knows some great modeling agencies in town. She gives him her office card and asks him to call after New Year. Jeffrey compliments her dress, but she insists she won't give him her personal number. Caitlyn is about to start the show when Isabelle starts admiring her dress. She wants to wear something like that for the party, and asks if Caitlyn has more. Abigail assumes it's from the office, but Doris quickly points out that Caitlyn made it. Abigail suggests Isabelle should see Leighton's designs. Isabelle still gives Caitlyn her card so they can set up a meeting. Abigail is angry, and asks Caitlyn to stay backstage with Doris throughout the party. Caitlyn and Doris are excited that Isabelle will wear her dress. Caitlyn doesn't mind not meeting the prince at the party if she's getting this opportunity. When Barnaby brings Jeffrey's jacket, he notices Caitlyn's phone. Caitlyn calls her phone the following morning and realizes that Jeffrey has it. He's heading out and offers to drop it at her place. Doris is impressed that a future princess is wearing Caitlyn's designs, and a cute model is answering her phone. Caitlyn calls Isabelle and fixes a meeting at her place. Isabelle informs Jeffrey about a designer she wants to meet that day. She asks him to meet her later for lunch. She doesn't understand why he's returning a lost phone himself. Jeffrey explains that he likes to be a regular person sometimes. When Isabelle doesn't relate to that, he leaves. Caitlyn and Doris discuss how elegant Isabelle is. Neither of them has seen the prince, and they hope he drops by with her. He just might. They start cleaning the place when Jeffrey also arrives. When he hands over the phone, Doris thinks he looks familiar. He claims he has been in a few magazines. Caitlyn tries to reward him, but Doris insists she should buy him coffee. She assures Caitlyn she will clean up the place while they head out. Jeffrey helps Caitlyn with her coat and promises he doesn't have ulterior motives. He clarifies that he's already seeing someone. Doris panics when she spots Jeffrey's photo on a magazine cover. She tries to alert Caitlyn, who has left her phone at home. That seems to be a pattern. Jeffrey has never been to a coffee house like this back home. He admits he's from a small European country most people haven't heard about. He already loves how energetic and colorful New York is. He feels like even riding a subway was an adventure for him. He asks what it's like for Caitlyn to work in fashion. Caitlyn admits that she wants to be a successful designer. She doesn't mention details about a great opportunity she has, so she doesn't jinx it. Jeffrey admits there might be a proposal soon when she asks about his girlfriend. He explains that it's a tradition for men in his family to propose on New Year's Eve. It's supposed to signify the fresh start of two lives becoming one. Caitlyn wants to steal this romantic idea for when she gets engaged. She clarifies that it won't happen soon, since she's not even dating anyone. Isabelle is surprised to see Jeffrey right under Caitlyn's house. Doris also comes rushing down to inform her that he's the prince. Isabelle apologizes to Caitlyn because Jeffrey didn't tell her who he was. Caitlyn tries to bow to him but doesn't know how she should address him. Isabelle explains that Jeffrey enjoys his anonymity too much. She's also glad that fate got them together and loves her designs. She chooses the dress she wants to wear for the gala. Caitlyn knows she can make it for New Year's Eve if Doris helps. When they discuss fabrics and measurements, Jeffrey decides to leave. He apologizes to Caitlyn again for embarrassing her. Abigail doesn't like that Isabelle is wearing Caitlyn's dress for the ball. She thinks Caitlyn is stealing Leighton's opportunity. Leighton thinks it is fair for Isabelle to go for a beautiful dress like Caitlyn's. Abigail thinks she decides what's in style as the editor-in-chief of a leading fashion magazine. Leighton asks Abigail to let it go since they can't change Isabelle's mind. Abigail starts plotting so Caitlyn can't finish her dress on time. She plans to hand over the entire event planning of the royal ball to her. Caitlyn feels frustrated that she needs to plan the party too. She's meeting Jeffrey and Isabelle that afternoon for a catering audition. Caitlyn feels awkward about meeting Jeffrey now that she knows he's a prince. Doris reminds her he seemed sorry about lying. Caitlyn is primarily worried about finishing the dress in time while planning the party. Doris assures her they will figure it out. Jeffrey brings the coffee he shared with Caitlyn the other day. Isabelle is choosing centerpieces while he decides on the food. Caitlyn admits she feels bad he didn't tell her he was a prince. Jeffrey explains that he liked being Jeff for a while. He also likes talking to someone who treats him like a regular person. He admits he didn't mean to embarrass her and apologizes again. They start assessing the options, but Caitlyn thinks every fancy item tastes weird. She can also tell Jeffrey is used to this. The most minor fancy item he has ever tasted is duck confit with pine foam. Someone is missing out. Caitlyn can't believe he hasn't had the actual kind of food that Jeff would eat. Jeffrey points out that he needs to do all this as a prince throwing a ball. Caitlyn doesn't think anyone would say no to a juicy hot dog. She makes him try one on the street and assures him it's life-changing. Caitlyn still feels like she can never fit into his strange world. He assures her that most of his friends just like being close to royalty. Jeffrey invites them to balls because it's a fundraiser for his royal family foundation. He starts describing what they do but remembers how Isabelle doesn't let him get carried away. Caitlyn doesn't think there's anything wrong with being passionate about something. Jeffrey admits he loves making a difference in people's lives. The guests at the fundraiser buy art pieces from the royal collection that are auctioned off. Caitlyn gets excited since she used to be an art teacher. He asks her to come by the mansion the next day when the pieces arrive. He jokes about throwing her into a dungeon if she refuses. Caitlyn remembers that she should leave if she wants to finish Isabelle's dress on time. When Caitlyn gets home, Doris asks her to make coffee for a long night ahead. Caitlyn wakes up next to a swing machine. She feels disoriented and doesn't remember if she was up all night. She panics since they have 3 days until the ball and 2 days till the fitting. She also has to work on the party. Doris makes her sit down and asks her to relax. Doris offers to call in sick at work to make the dress. She teases Caitlyn about looking at art pieces that day with a handsome prince. Caitlyn thinks her life is stressful enough without Doris's romantic suggestions. When Abigail calls her again, Caitlyn assures her she will be there. Abigail scolds Caitlyn for being late for the meeting with the royals. She wonders if she's giving Caitlyn too much work. When Abigail suggests discussing alternatives for Isabelle's dress, Caitlyn assures them that her dress will be ready on time. Isabelle and Abigail plan to find accessories for the ball while Caitlyn looks at artwork with Jeffrey. When they leave, Jeffrey insists they should have coffee first. He notices how worked up Caitlyn seems. Caitlyn is worried because she has never made a dress for someone else. Jeffrey has confidence in her, but Caitlyn needs the dress to be unique if he plans to propose that day. Jeffrey understands that working for someone like Abigail must be challenging. Caitlyn assures him she has learned a lot from Abigail, even if there's a lot of pressure. When Jeffrey tries to relate with her, she hopes he won't rant about how hard his life is. Jeffrey jokes about his position coming with great rewards, like multiple palaces. He admits that it's an honor to be a member of the royal family when his people are so hardworking and generous. He still feels bad that things like who he should marry have already been decided for him. Barnaby alerts him to a call from the king, but Jeffrey asks him to take a message instead. Isabelle loves that Abigail is giving her a lot of attention. Abigail points out that Caitlyn has never made a dress like before. She suggests Isabelle should have a backup dress in case it doesn't work out. Isabelle doesn't mind keeping a backup, but she's sure she only wants to wear Caitlyn's dress. Jeffrey is amused when he learns Caitlyn designed her first princess costume when she was 6. She explains that it made her want to be a princess before a designer. She describes how fashion is more about expressing than just clothes. She started as an art teacher to have a backup plan. When it took over her life, she decided to return to fashion. This was right after she broke up with someone and needed a fresh start. She admires a painting where an average woman feels beautiful in a stunning gown. She explains how good this dress is making her feel. Isabelle watches them and feels uncomfortable. Isabelle is relieved that her dress will be ready for fitting the next day. Caitlyn commends the art pieces and doesn't believe the royal family is giving them up. Isabelle explains that being a royal involves making many tough choices for the greater good. She would love the honor of joining the royal family. It's more of a duty than a dream. Caitlyn is sure she will make a great princess. Isabelle hopes Jeffrey sees that too and stops getting distracted. That's a slow burn. Leighton asks Abigail to stop plotting against Caitlyn. She can't find any dress of hers that matches Caitlyn's work anyway. Abigail has planned something even more sinister to give them a push. Leighton wants to succeed on her own merits and dislikes all these plans. Abigail reminds her of how cutthroat the business is. She feels like Leighton should have some advantages. Leighton still asks Abigail not to do anything crazy. When she gets back home, Caitlyn starts helping Doris. She suggests Caitlyn ask Isabelle for the gown back after the ball. They're of the exact measurements, but Caitlyn doesn't know where she can wear something like this. Even if she's on a break, Abigail urgently asks Caitlyn to return to the office. Caitlyn knows Abigail is trying to overwhelm her, but still feels terrible. Jeffrey turns up at Caitlyn's place after Abigail tells him to review auction brochures with her. Caitlyn is confused because Abigail needs her at the office too. She asks Jeffrey to bring the brochures to the office with her. Jeffrey suggests Barnaby can stay back and help Doris if anything is needed. Jeffrey is impressed with how good Caitlyn is at spotting errors in brochures. She thanks him for being so kind to her. She wonders how he met Isabelle, so he explains that they were introduced during a ceremony. When Isabelle heard about one of their board members stepping down, she showed interest in joining them. Jeffrey cares for Isabelle, but is worried because his father is stepping down as king. He will only allow Jeffrey to take over the throne after he marries. When Caitlyn wonders what he wants, he changes the topic. Doris doesn't understand how Barnaby can stand still for so long. He shares that he has worked with Jeffrey since the latter was 10. Barnaby knows Jeffrey is a great guy and thinks Caitlyn is nice too. Abigail turns up at their place and claims she's looking for Caitlyn. She compliments Isabelle's unfinished dress in a hurry. She pretends she can see the prints from the window and quickly clicks a photo of Caitlyn's dress. She asks Doris to let Caitlyn know she will speak to her the next day. Caitlyn asks about Jeffrey's New Year's resolutions. He's mostly planning something for the foundation and a possible wedding. Caitlyn wants to take a lot more chances next year. Even after quitting her teaching job, she took another similar one where she's working too hard. She hadn't taken chances with Abigail before Isabelle noticed her. Caitlyn is just excited that her design will be worn by nobility. She admits her other resolutions include finding love. Jeffrey doesn't think that is stupid at all. He believes love should be exciting and come out of nowhere. Abigail brags about photoshopping Caitlyn's dress on someone else. She knows Isabelle won't wear it if she thinks it's not exclusive. Abigail has asked the art department to help her make it look like this dress exists. She wants to upload the photo so Isabelle wears Leighton's designs. Leighton keeps insisting that she doesn't want Abigail to do anything crazy. Might be a little late for that. Leighton doesn't want to get ahead by destroying someone else's chance. Abigail promises to behave for her but still uploads the photo. Doris notices a spark between Jeffrey and Caitlyn when he drops her home. Caitlyn denies that she's falling in love with him. Doris is sure the feelings are reciprocated by how he looks at her. Caitlyn doesn't want to get carried away when Jeffrey is dating Isabelle. She doesn't think she can fit in with the royals anyway. Caitlyn doesn't believe her feelings matter because he won't kiss her at midnight on New Year's Eve. Barnaby can tell something is bothering Jeffrey. He knows Jeffrey is not good at hiding his feelings. Barnaby remembers when Jeffrey took out a car without permission when he was 16. He knocked down an 18th century statue and got into trouble for it. After that, he was forced to always have a driver around, but his heart wasn't in it. Barnaby is trying to suggest that Caitlyn is worth the risk if he wants to take a chance. Jeffrey doesn't want to take chances when people can get hurt. Isabelle overhears this conversation and calls King Richard. Everyone loves how beautiful Isabelle looks in Caitlyn's dress. Doris assures her it will be ready after a few adjustments. Isabelle congratulates Caitlyn for starting something new in her career. When Caitlyn walks, Jeffrey follows her downstairs. She apologizes for feeling overwhelmed that her dreams are coming true. Jeffrey asks Caitlyn to imagine people's faces when Isabelle wears her dress. Caitlyn has decided not to attend the gala. She wants the party to be more about Isabelle and Jeffrey like it is. When she asks if he will propose, he insists that is expected of him. Caitlyn makes it clear that she won't be able to watch that. Jeffrey knows what she's talking about, but they don't admit to their feelings. Caitlyn still feels glad he got his subway ride and the best hot dogs. Doris thinks Caitlyn might have stepped out for fresh air. Doris claims she has never seen Caitlyn this happy. She insists it's because of the dress, but Isabelle doesn't believe her. Isabelle watches Jeffrey and Caitlyn joking about the hot dogs and interrupts them. She thanks Caitlyn for the dress and asks her not to worry about the rest of the ball. Isabelle wants to handle the details while Jeffrey focuses on their future. She reminds him that he needs someone experienced by his side when he's made king. She doesn't think a girl who wants a fairy tale fantasy fits into that description. She asks him to give up his Jeff identity to return to his authentic self. She assures Jeffrey that she cares about him. Jeffrey points out that they never mention loving each other. Doris wants to go to the ball even if Caitlyn doesn't. Doris wonders if Jeffrey has a brother she can marry. They open the door to find King Richard outside. He informs them about his other son, Peter, who is already married and has 2 children. Richard and Caitlyn talk privately in his car after Doris tries to kiss his ring. Can't blame her. Richard explains that Isabelle called him about Caitlyn's relationship with Jeffrey. Caitlyn insists there is nothing between them. She doesn't answer when he asks if she has feelings for her. She seems sure Jeffrey will propose to Isabelle as planned. She asks if Richard has ever been happy as king. Richard thinks leading a nation is about sacrifice and tradition, while happiness comes in moments. Caitlyn wonders why he doesn't want to hold on to the happy moments for longer. Jeffrey is surprised that Richard arrived earlier than expected. Richard admits that he thinks Caitlyn is a great woman after chatting with her. He reminds Jeffrey that he must still step up to be a stable king. Richard also had an arranged marriage and learned to love Jeffrey's mother. Jeffrey assures him he's ready to step up even if he's not happy about it. Caitlyn now knows Jeffrey and Isabelle don't love each other. She still doesn't want to admit her feelings for him. Isabelle hopes Caitlyn has made all the arrangements for the ball since she won't attend it. Abigail storms in with a newspaper clipping of the photoshopped photo of Caitlyn's dress. She insists Caitlyn has stolen someone's design. Caitlyn is confused and tries to deny it, but Abigail has the upper hand in being dramatic. Jeffrey wants Isabelle to give Caitlyn a chance, but she stops him. Isabelle insists she can't wear a dress that is not original. She refuses to wear the dress, and Abigail fires Caitlyn. Jeffrey believes that Caitlyn didn't steal the design, but she walks off. Jeffrey hears Isabelle mentioning that Leighton's dress is only good enough. Jeffrey asks to speak to Isabelle alone and threatens Abigail. After what happened, Isabelle wants to double-check Caitlyn's arrangements for the ball. Jeffrey clarifies that he's not going to ask Isabelle to marry him. He breaks up with her because he's sure they don't love each other. Doris lies to Jeffrey about Caitlyn leaving the house to stay with her folks. Jeffrey asks her to thank Caitlyn for the hot dogs when she speaks to her. Jeffrey gets involved in the arrangements of the ball to avoid Richard as much as possible. He asks Barnaby to deliver a letter to Doris, who can forward it to Caitlyn. Barnaby quickly finds Caitlyn after promising to make Doris a duchess. He's very good. Barnaby wonders when Caitlyn knows she likes Jeffrey. She remembers when she came to the coffee shop with him after Jeffrey returned her phone. From how he described the subway ride, she knew she wanted someone who felt so much joy in life. Barnaby pockets the letter and gives Caitlyn an invitation to the ball instead. He explains that Jeffrey is not proposing. Caitlyn is proud of Jeffrey for stepping up. Barnaby asks her to believe in fairy tales and wear the dress she designed for a princess. Richard reminds Jeffrey at the ball that marrying Isabelle was a part of their deal. Jeffrey is willing to give up the throne and suggests Peter can take over. Jeffrey explains how Caitlyn showed him that it's essential to be happy. Richard understands how he feels. He changes the rule about Jeffrey needing to marry for the throne, since he can do anything as the king. Isabelle asks Jeffrey for a dance and is cordial with him. She's glad they broke up because she also doesn't want to settle for less. She hopes Jeffrey will find a happy ending soon. Everyone holds their breath as Caitlyn turns up at the ball in her dress. Leighton stops Abigail from insulting Caitlyn. Leighton explains what Abigail did with the dress and hopes Caitlyn can forgive her. She wants to be on Caitlyn's side so she can one day be invited to her fashion show. Leighton asks Abigail to notice how amazing Caitlyn's dress is. Abigail somewhat warms up and offers Caitlyn her job back. Caitlyn no longer wants the job and tries to look for Jeffrey before midnight. As they dance, she thanks Jeffrey for making her believe in fairy tales again. Jeffrey hopes he can ask Caitlyn to marry him, as per tradition next year on New Year's Eve. As everyone counts down, he kisses her.